One on One, a KC Sports Network podcast. As always, I'm your co-host, Mike DeVito, here with 9-year NFL veteran and KC Chiefs Super Bowl champion, Jeff Allen. And we're here to bring you all things Chiefs football, as always, from a player's perspective. We're 1-2, Jeff. A lot of tough things to talk about, a lot of optimistic things to talk about as well. But before we even get into it, we have a special guest, BJ. What's up, brother? Talk to us, man. What are you hanging with us today? You need to do this all the time, man. This would be 1-on-2 or something. You got to hang with
I was popping on talking to you guys for about the first 10 minutes, and then I got to bounce out and take care of life. But I wanted to pop on because we have a special announcement to make. I know Jeff and I have been talking over the past few weeks, it seems like, but we have a special announcement at KC Sports Network and a new campaign that we have for the rest of the Chiefs season, in that it's called Feed It Forward, our Teacher Appreciation Campaign. We are going to be sending 100 Cookie Society cookies every week to a different school in the Kansas City area for teachers and staff to have as just a special thank you for everything that teachers have had to go through to support and educate our kids during these COVID times. My wife and I did Feed It Forward a year ago with taking care of some frontline healthcare workers. And now we're trying to do the same thing with teachers. And Jeff, you guys were so nice with Cookie Society that we figured out a way to make it work and give back to the community in a way that I know was important to both of us.
Definitely. I think teachers have one of the hardest, if not the hardest professions of them all, and the most important. I mean, especially early on in life, those are the people that impact you the most. We all have kids. We know how tough they are sometimes. So I'm always giving my teachers gifts, my kids' teachers at least, to tell them thank you. I think this is part of it. We need to always, show appreciation for those that are taking care of so many children and impacting our futures, because children are the future.
Guys, it's incredible. I'm homeschooling my two boys over here, and I've gotten a taste of it this year. How difficult it is. Now, I have just two of my own kids to homeschool. And I had something go down. My car needed a repair. It ended up breaking down. But it was a frustrating deal. And I remember that happened early in the morning. And then I had to homeschool my kids throughout the day. And about 20 minutes in, I was like, I'm done. I can't even focus. And this is a minor thing dealing with my own two kids, and I can't finish the day. These teachers go in 20, 30 kids. They're dealing with all this stuff they got going on in life. And they got to try to compartmentalize that and focus on raising the next generation. So that's fantastic what you two are doing, and what Cookie Society and KCSN. I mean, that's just amazing. And Jeff, you were talking before about some of the new stuff that's coming out in October.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff are we sending them, brother?
Well, we're sending them September's flavors right now, but we're transitioning over to October soon. I've been getting a ton of, DMs. People are adding me right now in my comments on my Twitter section saying we're sold out, and that's because of Travis and Patrick. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys, tweeting about the cookies, but it put us in a little pinch right there. They took all the cookies. So we're sold out until October 1st. That's Friday. It's coming up soon. But with it being a new month means there's a new menu. We're going to have a pumpkin spice cookie. It's going to be a chocolate-based cookie with peanut butter Reese's, like the Reese's Pieces. What else are we going to have? I'm really excited about this menu. There's a Twix cookie. So I think she's calling it something else for, legal reasons.
I want that shirt. I want that shirt. Jeff.
Make cookies. Play football. It should say you can play football.
That's it. I think that's a commandment. That's in scripture somewhere. That's a verse.
Yeah, man. But it's an exciting month. It's Halloween, so there's a lot of treats this month. I'm excited about it. I think everyone else will be too.
What is the cookie? Have you tasted the pumpkin spice yet?
Yeah. So that's a staple every fall season. Usually in October, pumpkin spice comes out.
I get made fun of up here because I love it. I go to Dunkin' Donuts, pumpkin spice, everything. And
she makes a pumpkin pie cookie or a pumpkin pie and stuffs it in the cookie.
Who's the taste tester? Whose job is it just to sit there and try all these? Be like, you know what? It's not good.
It used to be me primarily, but I started to gain a few pounds, so I shifted it off to some other folks. But man, those things are amazing.
That's great.
No, we're looking forward to this, guys. And I know the three of us talked about this a few weeks ago, and the idea was kind of coming to fruition, and we were talking through it, and we were all kind of on the same page. And and wanted to support and everything that we're doing with KC Sports Network, and what you guys are doing with your show and what the lab guys are doing, that there needed to be some sort of way to bring it all together with the Kansas City community, and figured that sending cookies is always a good thing, especially ones as good as these are. And obviously taking care of teachers. I come from a family of teachers. My mom was a teacher. My sister is an elementary school teacher in Kansas City. So I hear firsthand everything they have going on. And then on top of the 100 cookies that we're sending, we have a little campaign out of it. And that for every subscriber that we pick up for our Substack, so our daily newsletter that comes out with more the in-depth analysis breakdown, for anyone that pays for our subscriber newsletter, which is $50 a year, ends up being like 12 cents per newsletter. But anybody who pays that for the year, we're going to send an additional 5 cookies to 5 teachers in the Kansas City community. So if you're on the fence about whether or not you want to support it, and you need that one more thing to get over the edge and feel good about it, know that if you support us with the subscription to our newsletter, you're also sending some cookies to teachers who absolutely deserve it in the Kansas City area. So that's all I got for Feed It Forward teacher appreciation, but appreciate you guys. Let me talk about it a little bit here.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, BJ. And I was just going to say the one thing that, and I know Jeff can attest to this, I read those newsletters, and I can't believe how technical and advanced our staff is. I mean, our guys really know the game of football. Like, I'm reading this thinking, wow, I watched that game too, and I didn't get any of that stuff. I mean, these guys really know what they're talking about.
That's same, man. I'm like, man, I need to do a little bit more work.
Like, what?
And there's such a fine line. And guys, I've joked about this with you because there is such a fine, this is not what this show should be about, but there's such a fine line with breaking down film and analysis, and that fine line of knowing that you can know the game and you can teach the game, educate people at some level with anything that you see, while at the same time not crossing those lines of establishing blame or saying this is what's happening when you don't know what's happening necessarily. Right. It doesn't mean you have to know everything to be able to kind of talk about something. But those guys, the lab guys, Craig Stout, Kent Swanson, Matt Land, they do such a good job of riding that line of educating people, but not going so far as to pretend to know what the scheme or the responsibilities. And it's a very nuanced thing that I've joked about with you guys, even back when you were playing. But they handle that really, really well. And I'm glad you guys say that and appreciate that, because it is something as guys who, and I ran through this, didn't play the game, but created content, did some X's and O's. What I would call X's and O's was basically like highlighting things away from the ball. That's all it really was. But I appreciate you guys saying that. And I know that means a lot to those guys as well, to be validated by guys who played the game at that level, knowing how much time and effort they put into their content.
Yeah, they do a fantastic job. And it certainly is a fine line. I remember, gosh, it was tough in New York. Everybody in New York was a DC and an OC. I mean, all the beat, right? Everybody knew everything they were talking about. And you'd pick up the tabloids and look at the stuff and be like, they'd have the plays diagrammed and it would be totally off, not even close. And, and they're calling people out in the article. And it's just like, I can't, like, so you lose respect from the players when you do, even as a former player. I know, Jeff, you and I will always asterisk what we're saying. Like, this is what it looked like.
Yeah.
But I don't know what
I don't have a clue. No one knows exactly what's going on in any locker room unless you're in there. So, proceed with caution if you're in the media. Say what you see from your viewpoint, your perspective, but also add that at the end of the day, no one really knows unless you're there.
And it also doesn't mean that fans shouldn't have an opinion or be able to facilitate discussion. Because I'm not going to be a hypocrite like I did that, but I felt like I always scooted the line pretty well of being like, I don't know, like I'm not going to go in on somebody unless I know I'm right.
But that's what
once I was the Chiefs guy, I was like, can't do that anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That's what makes it so great. I mean, I think opinions should.
I'm not sure.
Sorry, that's my watch. I think opinions should be heard. People should be able to say what they see and how they feel at the end of the day. It's not, about condemning someone when they're wrong. It's just about when those moments when you are wrong, admitting it and getting better.
Yeah, and that's what our guys do well. They really do walk that line very well, where you don't get that arrogance or that know-it-all. But at the same time, again, as a former player, reading the stuff, listening to the stuff, Craig's stuff, I'm just like, wow, that is really rich in content. And like, I'm like, man, I wish I brought that to one-on-one sometime. But these guys really know the game. So Yeah, so that's good. That's good. Everybody check
What
that
you
out.
guys think is just like common knowledge is like the interesting stuff to us. And that's what I always, when I talk with you guys, like, I don't think you understand what we find interesting, and we as in just like fans in general,
Yeah.
like just the process stuff we talk about all the time, just the process oriented thing. So that leads me to the question I just wanted to ask both of you, because the team's 1-2, first time they've had a losing record since 2015. The sky is falling for a lot of people on Twitter, which is not the place to go to after back-to-back losses. And I'm not the person to talk to, because you don't fumble the ball 3 times or turn it over 3 times in the red zone. You don't have these problems. Like, they played awful and they still almost won. That's my takeaways. Everybody's healthy, and just don't turn the ball over and you're okay. But from you guys' perspective, when there's a side of the ball, and right now it seems to be the defense, like they're struggling in ways that it's consistently, it seems like it's the same sort of thing. What kind of changes can you make in the middle of the season? You can't just completely switch schemes and go completely opposite of what you've been preparing for all season. So what kind of changes can you make? Michael, let's have you go first. Like, defensively, when you're struggling, how much can you actually change once you get into the season?
Yeah, Jeff talked about this right at the beginning, and I thought it, at the beginning of the year, and I thought it made a lot of sense. And I hadn't thought of it until he brought it up, but defenses do take a little bit to get going at the beginning of the year, right? For some reason, we start off fast in training camp, but then once the regular season gets going, sometimes it's hard to get the rhythm going. It's hard to get just that sort of swagger, that flow. And that's really what defense is. I mean, you can cover a lot of problems just going out there being confident, and everybody, what Rex Ryan used to say, singing out of the same hymnal, right? Everybody playing on the same page, having fun, 100 miles an hour, and having that swagger and that passion and enjoying it. And that stuff I've seen from the Chiefs in the past with these same guys, right? Even when things were tough, you see these guys smiling. I see Chris smiling. I see Honey Badger smiling. I hear them laughing. You see them on their sideline. When you have a defense that's like that, you are good to go. You are, no matter what, these guys are going to be able to bounce back, because they have this juice, this energy about them. I think they just need to get to that point. When it comes to the actual technical stuff, one thing that really helped me, that I tried to work on it personally, individually, but I think as a group, it really, you go out and you focus on, whatever the game plan is, whatever you have to do, you're preparing, but then you're also trying to focus on fixing the things that you can fix from the week before. And what I mean by that is, you don't take the whole aggregate of stuff. There's just not enough time to fix everything. But it's like, okay, what is the primary issue right now? Yeah. Okay, maybe pass rush up front. Like, we didn't get home last week, and we know that the secondary needs our help up front, or so, whatever that is. And that needs to be a point of emphasis throughout the week, and not just, hey, we say it on Wednesday meetings when we get back in, and then we move on. But every single, day, we're reiterating, hey, listen, we're working on this. We're working on that pass rush. It's a mindset, intentional all the time. And I go back to that 2015 season when we were, when we started 1-5. And I've said it a million times, but I think it's worth rehearsing again. That's exactly what Andy Reid said to us in that team meeting, after we, had lost that 5th game. He said, look, we're just going to focus on whatever's next on the schedule, and we're going to do it perfect, right? Whatever it is next on the schedule, just winded that thing. And so I guess what I'm trying to take from that is figure out what you need to fix, and then intentionally thinking about that, getting that right throughout the week as you prepare for the team you're going to play for. I did that individually. We did that as a group, as a defensive line. Like, hey, we're struggling against the run. Okay, all week we're talking to each other. We're communicating. Let's call out the back sets. Let's call out the personnel, the down and distance. Let's make sure that the things that we can handle here, we are handling. Let's really critique each other. Let's make sure the scout team's working hard to give us these looks. Get on those guys. So there's, it's just about being intentional. And that's why I don't worry about this team. I think more of it is what Jeff said back at the beginning of the season, where it's just, they got to find that swagger. They got to find that groove. And I think once that gets going, I think we're going to see a total shift in what, a total paradigm shift in what we see on defense, not scheme wise, but just the quality of play that we see on Sundays. Because the guys on this team, I know, like, if there was no leadership, right? If I looked at the roster on defense and I was worried about the guys that were on there, then I would say, hey, we got a problem, because there's nobody really can lift us out of here. We don't have leaders. We don't have good players. That's not the case. We have good players. We have great players that have played in big games, that have made big plays for us. And so I think it's just a matter of getting the confidence back, getting the swagger back, And I think part of it too is I think you do need to focus on being a little bit more technical. I think, and I want to ask Jeff about this, but it does seem like defenses have started to figure out Mahomes, Kels, and Hill. Not perfectly, of course. We're still putting up good points, but I don't think the defense can be wild, wild west all the time anymore. I think making stops now really is important because I think it doesn't seem like the offense isn't doing well, but I feel like San Diego seemed like they had a good plan and they were able to slow things down, at least comparatively to what we normally see on offense from KC. And I think that's just a matter of them teams figuring out KC. So, okay, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
No, I definitely was going to talk about that. I think you're spot on with this. I guess this analysis. Teams, I don't want to say they figured them out, but they have a way to slow the team down a little bit. The offense is still playing well besides the turnovers. They're still doing what they're supposed to do. They're still driving down the field. But defenses, they're basically saying, take away Kelsey, take away Hill. Kelsey's still putting up numbers. Yeah. I mean, Hill's getting his touches still, but take away the big play primarily. Keep those safeties deep. Make the offense, go long drives because, hey, it gives us a better chance to get a turnover. Don't give up the big play. Keep everything in front of you and pray to God that they don't get in the end zone. Yeah, and I think that's the best approach going against the Chiefs. I was looking at the game and I was thinking, like, God, do we have another playmaker, on the outside that, that can make a play besides Kelsey and Hill because they're taking them away. I think Clyde did a good job of running the ball, but we're passing offense. That's what we do. That's what historically Andy Reid's always done. Right. So I was like, we need somebody else in there, and hopefully this signing of Josh Gordon could be something later down the road. I don't think it's going to be an impact right away. It's going to take him some time. He's been away from the game a long time. So he's got a lot to do to catch up, but maybe that's the guy. Go ahead, BJ.
I was just going to ask about that because I wanted to get your guys' perspective on when like a new veteran player like that comes into the locker room and that, how much of the outside noise and a lot of people seeing Josh Gordon and almost Willie Gay Jr., who's injured second-year linebacker, as right, wrong, and different. It's not fair to them. They're seen as the fixes to the 1 and 2 problems, even though we know that's not the realistic way. Yeah. Narratives being spun, not fair to them. So what's it like as a player, knowing that that's the story on the outside that's being told, to welcome somebody like that into your locker room with the guys that you've been grinding with throughout training camp and getting a lot of that just kind of feel? You guys talked about it during camp of not liking camp, but knowing that it's important because he's now going to step into a situation where he's going to be counted on with a tight group of people that you guys understand that culture of that. I'm not going to pretend to know what it's like at other places, but I trust you guys when you say it's not like that other places. What's it like for Josh Gordon coming into that situation?
I would say for the most part, guys just want to win. So it isn't that big of a deal. I do think directly whatever position's brought in to fill that role, avoid, that the media speaks about, it may be a little tension in there. But Josh may not ever touch the field. He may elevate the play of the guy that's in that current spot now because he feels some pressure or something like that. It's just all about creating competition, about making the team better. And at the end of the day, we're all professionals. You can get mad all you want. The only way you silence all the noise is do your job and do it well. So, we all know that. That's not anything we're not going to pout. Usually the guys that do pout shouldn't be there anyway.
Yeah. It's a level of pragmatism that you guys have that I felt like I had just as like honestly, not that I played at a high level, but like baseball as a relief pitcher, you got to get to the next pitch. Like it sounds like such a cliche thing in life, but like that's all my life was. So very used to just like clear it, forget about the past, move on to the next thing. And I feel like a lot of fans don't understand that. And I don't want to call fans out saying you could tell which fans didn't play sports at a high level because they don't know what it's like to fail, have to go back to the drawing board, fix whatever it was, and then go back and do it again because they haven't gone through that process. I think most athletes or people that have failed before and then came back, worked at something, committed to something at level, understand that when it doesn't go the way that you want, you don't sit back and complain about it for 6 days on Twitter. You literally are in the film. Like you try to clear your head about it to get your mind right and get your body right. And then you're right back to work.
I'm going to disagree with you, BJ.
Okay.
I do think that most people go through stuff and some people persevere through things. The only difference is we do it in front of the world. People get to see it, so it's a little bit more pressure, and people get to see how we react. So there's a lot more criticism. There's a lot more, people having comments about it. I think that's the biggest difference. But yeah, we all go through stuff at the end of the day. People have to figure out, how they're going to do their job better, whatever industry they're in. We're all replaceable.
Yeah.
We all can get fired at any given moment. And I think the thing that we all need to know is just do our jobs.
Yeah. And that's constant. I mean, that's just reality in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't see Gordon coming in there and now all of a sudden you have this rift or explode, this sort of now we have a toxic locker room. First, you have great leaders that can't wait to get him in there and out on that field because they know he can produce, especially what you see what him did in his short time in New England. But that's just sort of the reality in the NFL. You just realize, this is just there's competition. I mean, that's what this is, and and you're right. It brings everybody up. The guys that when you bring in competition start to pout and get on Twitter and all this stuff. Those are usually, like Jeff said, those are the guys that shouldn't be in the locker room anyway, and it certainly ain't going to happen in Kansas City. I think it's only plus. I think it's a no lose situation for Kansas City. I think the one thing that's worth noting, and this is from a player's perspective, I'm sure Gordon had other options to go other places.
Yeah.
But he chose the 1 and 2 Chiefs. Like he probably could have went to the Raiders at 3-0, and he probably could have went to Denver. But he chose the Chiefs. So I just want to know, so I know it seems like everything's caving in on us right now, but I guarantee you, if you polled the players around the league and they were being honest, if I was coming back, I would rather be in KC than in Oakland. I don't care if Oakland is 8-0. I'd rather be in KC when you're talking about what does the future look like. So I think that was what I thought when I first saw that, not the other stuff, but just was like, yeah, he had other offers, but he knew the right place to be. The team that gave him the best chance to win a Super Bowl is Kansas City, even at 1 and 2. That's what I was saying.
I mean, we're 1 and 2. I mean, our record's our record. A lot of things can be true at once.
Right.
Kansas City Chiefs are still a good football team. Patrick Mahomes still the best quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
And they can turn this thing around in a heartbeat. But they just have to do it at the end of the day. I mean, like you said, we had 4 turnovers against the Chargers last week, and we lost by 1 score. I mean, that doesn't happen. I've been on teams where we have 4 turnovers.
Forget it.
It's a 4-turnover game. You don't get any turnovers on defense. You lose by 21 points. And the game is over with at halftime. So that lets you know how good this team is. The margin of error is I mean, they have a lot of room to mess up and still make up. So the sky isn't falling. The Chiefs are still a good football team. And I sound like a broken record because I said this last week after the Baltimore loss, but I still feel the same way. Like, I'm not worried about it. I'm not panicking. They're going to figure it out.
If we're going to praise the leadership, and we're going to, at the end of the season, going to talk about the journey, and they went through stuff, and then they had to lean on the leader, like all those things that you use. And then it happens and you don't give them the time to do that. It's like, what do you do? You can't praise having all these leaders. And then when it comes time that you need to show the leadership and then you got to lean on that, you don't give them the grace to do that. Like it's hypocritical. Like, let them do what you're praising them for doing. And to Mike's point, and to Jeff, you guys know these guys, like, you're just not worried about an Andy Reid led team with Patrick Mahomes, Tyrann Mathieu, those guys in the room, of not being focused. And you don't have to make, again, to your point, these wholesale changes. And Jeff, when I was going back to the pragmatic thing, I was just saying athletes are wired in that afterwards you just get back to work and you fix the problem. Or people who weren't athletes in their lives don't understand that process. They don't understand to go back and just get to work. They just sit back and complain, or they sit back and they're like, no, we got to change everything. It's like, no, we fumbled 3 times. It doesn't mean we change everything. And yes, there are going to be areas of the team that aren't as strong as others. You're not going to have all pros all over the team. So there's never going to be, hey, we want this balanced team. I was a Chiefs fan in the mid-90s. We had like a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, and we still got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. It didn't matter. Yeah.
So. And that's key too. When you're hitting, when you're on fire. I mean, if you're going to be going through this stuff, now's the time to do it. Get these kinks worked out early, finish, start, because you don't want to start on the, like Jeff, I think about the 2013 season, start 9-0, and then sort of the stuff that was started to manifest manifested too late in the season. Now it's really hard to get it fixed. And now momentum's going the other way, and we're out in the first round. So, but going back to the 4 turnovers, I just, it boggles my mind because 4 turnovers, teams going for it on 4th down, throwing the ball all over the place just to try to beat Kansas City, and they do it by 6 points. You guys remember the butt fumble game?
Yeah.
We're playing New England at home on Thanksgiving. It had to be 4 turnovers, including the butt fumble. It was like 34-0 going into halftime. It was the only time I ever heard a coach say, "We're not going to win this game." At halftime. It was done. It was done. We were out. No, the 4 turnovers. It's over. Like, that game gets to bury the football game.
It is.
So but this team, is right in it to the last second to win it. So yeah, sky's not falling. But before we get into go ahead, BJ. Do you need to get going?
No. Yeah, I just wanted to ask guys one more question, and I apologize for putting you on the spot on this way. Just, you guys have different perspectives because you've been around Coach Reed, and a lot of people talk about Coach Reed. We know he had a health scare after the game, went to the hospital. It was reported that he's already back at work, which surprises nobody on this call that it took that long for him to get back to work. But when you first saw it, I'm not asking for any information if you know anything or don't, just what was your reaction when you saw it, and just how can you try to convey to fans what that relationship and what it's like playing for Coach Reed, and the way that former players, whether you played for him for 6 months or 6 years, there's a reverence that he's spoken about with. So when things like what happened after the game, kind of anyone that ever played for him is around him, everything just kind of stops for a little bit. Just want to give you a chance to talk about that before I bounce out.
Yeah, we immediately started praying, my wife and I. I mean, he was our football. He was my football coach, but he was more than that. He was a mentor. He was someone that we all looked up to. The family atmosphere is real. I mean, the wives, they go over to his house, and they hang with his wife Tammy, and it's just a different type of relationship. So obviously, we were thinking about Coach Reed and his health, but we were praying for the entire family, making sure that he was okay, not just as a coach, but as a human being. And just hoping for the best. I mean, I saw the reports. I didn't tweet anything about it. I literally that entire day, I was just thinking about him. And then the next day we got good reports, and that's when I said something, just thankful that he's okay. And him being back at work, like he said, it's no surprise. Like, this guy is a worker, first in, last to leave. I think he sleeps there. I can't confirm that, but I don't know how he's always the first guy there. So the only answer is he's sleeping there.
Yeah. I was an early bird. I was usually, first or second player there, pitch black. And Coach Reed's car was always, you're not beating him in there.
Yeah.
This is a scary time right now, right? I mean, you see something like that, normally you're scared. You see something like that in the sort of world that we're in now, and it's like, wow, so that was the instant reaction, was just to start praying. But right, like outside of one guy, everybody that's ever talked about Andy Reid talks about the type of person he is first, right? Just how incredible a man and a leader and a person that he is. And it's as a player, I've said it a million times, but it's easy to go into work and work hard day in and day out for a guy like Andy Reid, because he loves you, he's going to bat for you. Even if he releases you, he's going to go to bat for you to get signed by another team. This guy is just it's rare in the NFL. The NFL is really, really cutthroat, as everybody knows. It's really a business. And some of the worst people that I've been around in my life were some of the people in the offices of those teams. But Andy Reid is the antithesis of all of that. And so he makes it, it adds, obviously, for any former player, former coach, you see something like that in today's world, you're going to get worried. But that you see with Coach Reid, it's almost like a family member. It is a family member. And so, yeah, it was scary. So to hear Ted come on the thing and talk about him today and say everything was good was really, really a weight off the shoulders. And we're still praying for you, Coach.
Still.
BJ, let me read this. Tickets for Less is going to kill me, man. We're supposed to get this in early, brother. Tickets for Less. I'm sorry. We got to get this read in. Are you hanging out some more, BJ? You out of here?
I was gonna bounce out, but you just reminded me to remind you to do the tickets for less thing. So we'll just leave this in here, and it'll be very real for everybody listening. Go and do that tickets for less read, and I'm gonna bounce out and go coach my kids' baseball game. So
BJ,
have a good one.
Brother. Tickets for less, man. I'm sorry. I was supposed to be doing this right away. I got all caught off. Tickets for less. You looking to score unbeatable deals on Chiefs tickets? My friends at Tickets for Less have you covered. Locally owned for more than 17 years. Ticketsforless.com has the best selection of Chiefs tickets for every game, all without the outrageous taxes or per-ticket service fees you find on other sites. Plus, you can use our exclusive KCSN promo code from Tickets for Less to save even more. Use code KCSN21 at checkout to save big on any Chiefs order for at ticketsforless.com. That's KCSN21 at checkout. So check them out. Tickets for Less. Big Jeff, we've been going. What else? Did we miss anything? Go ahead.
I mean, we didn't miss anything. It's just been it's been a while since we've lost back-to-back games, especially in this fashion with turnovers. So, I mean, this is a weird time right now, but it's easily fixed. All we have to do is not turn the ball over. Yeah. I think defensively, I was really encouraged because you were speaking about, making sure you fix the one thing that's hindering you. And that's been stopping the run. And they did a really good job against, the LA Chargers at stopping the run. It was just, Justin Herbert, who's a really good quarterback. You got Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. They got some serious weapons out there. So, they kind of did what they were supposed to do. And I kind of expected that. But I was really happy to see them stop the run. I just wish, in some critical situations, we could have got some stops. We got that crazy pass interference call. I don't know if they were calling it on the corner. Baker ended up calling it on Sorensen on TV, which he was nowhere near the play. Yeah, I did see Neiman in the middle of the field kind of tug a guy, but that wasn't pass interference. It's kind of a ghost call, but that's not the reason we lost the game. We lost the game because of turnovers. That would have been an opportunity to kind of steal one, but it's really hard to win games with 4 turnovers. So credit to the Chargers. They deserve that. They earned that game.
Yeah, and that's one thing that defense can do, can help with all this is, and Spags talked about this in his press conference yesterday, or was either yesterday or today, the fact that we're not creating turnovers on defense.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's easily fixable because it's a mindset thing. When I was with the Jets in 2012, we had put an emphasis on it. And the one thing that we did that made a big difference in practice, our defensive line coach said, but it was a whole defense. They said, if the scout team completes a pass or runs the football, whoever can get the ball out and secure it gets $1. And we'll just keep tallying up throughout the season who can get it. And so you'd be surprised just making it $1. Everybody's like running to the football,
millionaires.
Just that little incentive, and that made a big difference. Guys were going after the ball on Sunday because it just becomes built-in habit. So I think that's one thing that they can certainly fix. That Spags had noted. The other thing that I think is going to be important, and Spags also talked about this, is 4th down defense. I mean, I looked it up over the past 3 weeks. Teams have gone for it 6 times on 4th down, and they're 4 for 6. So 4th down defense, it's one of those things that I don't know, Jeff, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if I saw 6 4th down attempts in a season. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
That's not a normal thing. Well, it's a normal thing when, Patrick Mahomes is on the opposite sideline because they were out of field goal range. They were going to kick the field goal. Then they realized they were out of range. Got the false start. 4th and 9 now. You're thinking any team's going to punt it if you're going against any other quarterback. And you're like, actually, I know if I punt this ball, I'm probably going to lose the game. So that's what happens. That's the Patrick Mahomes effect. That's the Chiefs' offense effect. It's the amount of respect that other teams and defenses have, for the opposing side of the ball. But, man, it's tough. It's tough getting off the field on 3rd down. You get an extra down. You just got to lock in it's a critical situation. And that's what I was speaking about. In critical situations, getting off the field, 3rd down, 4th down, making sure you get the ball back to the offense, especially on a day, where we have 4 turnovers as a team. We all lean on one another. we're lacking in one part, someone else picks up the slack, whether it be special teams, offense, or defense. It's great when they all come together. That was one of those special days. You only have probably 1 or 2 games a year where you can truly say everything was clicking on all cylinders. It's usually, we could do this better here, we can do that better. But somebody has to step up and make a play on offense or defense in those critical situations during games so we can get these close wins.
Yeah, it's big time. And Spags talked about how they had prepared for 4th down against Baltimore the week before, but against LA, they didn't. And he said one of the things was we didn't have any data. We didn't have any reps from this. I should know who the OC in LA is. But he said we didn't have any breakdown. He's like, so we didn't practice it. And play things. It's surprising. And I'd like to sort of dig in to figure out why. Jeff, you could probably tell me why. But the 3rd down offenses to 4th down offenses do change in scheme, right? Spags said, well, it's kind of just like 3rd down again. But I remember from what I can remember, 4th down, when we were studying a team's 4th down package, it was usually pretty nuanced and different from what you would get, on your normal first down plays. I mean, that seems to be the case, right?
That's a got to have it play. So those it's like a 2-point conversion. Right. It's something that you don't see out in the field. It's a special scripted play where what the defense is going to give you. The situation. You've been studying this. You're like, I'm going to pull this out when I need it. So it's a special play. So you make sure you got to get it. And the Chiefs are going to see a lot of it, especially in the low red zone. Right. I have the choice to get 3 points or go for it on 4th and 2 and possibly get 6. I'm going to go for it. My odds, of beating the Chiefs with kicking field goals are very low, even when they turn the ball over. So teams know they need 6 and 7 points, and they're going to continue to go for it. So the defense, unfortunately, they got to get used to it.
Got to get used to it. That's got to be like that. That's normally during the week. That's sort of a Thursday. Hey, couple minutes. Here's what, if we get a 4th down, here's a couple, here's a breakdown, 5-minute breakdown in the film room. And then you might get one play on Thursday or Friday. Yeah. Like here's a 4th down play. Chiefs, like you said, the Pat Mahomes effect. I mean, we've seen it. You've had 6 4th down attempts in the first 3 games. Like you got to be ready for that. That's something you're going to get often on defense. All right, Big Jeff, we've gone long. We got the Eagles this week. Let's get this win. We'll talk next week, Chiefs Kingdom, about the W, being back on track. We'll be here happy. But thank you all for tuning in to One-on-One. And again, we'll see you next week after we get this W. Big Jeff, love you, brother. Thanks for coming on, man.
Love you too. Go Chiefs. Beat the Eagles.